You've probably heard the name Liam 1,000 times. Maybe you've got a Liam in your life right now. Maybe you named your own child Liam. And why wouldn't you? It's been the #1 baby name in America for 8 straight years. In 2024 alone, over 22,000 newborn boys received this name. But nobody tells you when you're filling out that birth certificate what happens when you trace the name Liam back through centuries of language, through Old Irish, through Norman French, through Frankish Germanic, all the way back to its Proto-Germanic root. You arrive at a meaning so deeply tied to warfare, death, and ancient terror mythology that it would make most parents think twice. You're about to discover what Liam actually means. And it's nothing like what the baby name websites tell you. Let's start with what you've probably been told. You visit any popular baby name site, type in Liam, and you'll see something like resolute protector, or strong-willed warrior, or even beloved guardian. Sounds great, right? Strong, noble, safe. But those definitions are sanitized marketing versions. To understand what Liam really means, you need to pull this name apart at the seams. Liam is a short form of the Irish name William, which itself is the Irish adaptation of the Germanic name William. That name developed in Ireland around the 17th century, but the root stretches back much further. William descends from the Proto-Germanic compound Wilja-helmas. 2 elements. Wiljo, meaning will, wish, or desire, and helmas, meaning helm or helmet. So the literal translation of Liam, stripped of all the pleasant rebranding, is helmet of will, and that might still sound harmless until you understand what the helmet actually represented in the ancient Germanic world. You need to forget the modern image of a helmet as sports equipment. In Proto-Germanic and Old Norse culture, the helm was a sacred object. It was not just metal on your head, it was ritually bound to a warrior's identity, his power, and his fate. In the Old English epic Beowulf, the poet describes boar figures mounted on helmets that literally kept watch over the warriors wearing them. The boar was sacred to the Vanir gods Freya, and boar-crested helmets invoked their divine protection. The Roman historian Tacitus documented this Germanic practice as early as 98 CE in his work Germania. Scholars have shown that these figures served an apotropaic role, meaning they provided magical protection. And here is the disturbing part. If those figures were removed or destroyed, the warrior was believed to die. The boar and the warrior were regarded as a singular entity with a shared life force. The helmet was not armor, it was a soul vessel. Now think about that in the context of the name. You are not naming your child protector. You are naming your child after an object that was mystically fused with death and warfare. It gets darker. In Old Norse mythology, there exists a concept called the Aegis-hjalmar, the Helm of Awe, sometimes translated as the Helm of Terror. The word breaks into 2 parts, Aegis meaning shield, and hjalmar meaning helm or helmet. That same helma's root sitting right there in the name William, right there in the name Liam. The Helm of Terror appears in one of Norse mythology's most famous stories. In the Volsunga saga, the dragon Fafnir, consumed by greed and transformed into a monster, attributed his invincibility to this helm. Before the hero Sigurd delivered the killing blow, Fafnir revealed the Helm of Terror's power. It wasn't just protection. It radiated supernatural dread. It made enemies freeze in fear. The awe it inspired wasn't reverence. It was paralyzing, existential terror. So when you name your child Liam, you're etymologically connecting them to a tradition where the helmet symbolized not just war, but the capacity to project terror itself. Now let's talk about that first element, Wiljo, the will part. You might think this softens things. Will as in willpower, determination, maybe even gentleness of spirit. But in its Proto-Germanic context, will carried the weight of fierce resolve, the kind of determination that drove warriors into battle frenzy. This connects directly to what scholars call the Männerbund, the Proto-Indo-European warrior brotherhood. These were bands of unmarried young men who served as war parties, sent into the wilderness as a rite of passage. They identified mystically with wolves and dogs, symbols of death, lawlessness, and fury. They practiced ecstatic battle frenzy, sometimes enhanced by drugs, entering states of superhuman rage. As Snorri Sturluson wrote in the 13th century, describing these warriors in his Prose Edda, you know the word berserk? It comes from this exact tradition. The Old Norse berserksganga literally means going berserk, describing warriors who entered uncontrollable violent states. The will in William, in Liam, isn't polite determination. It's the will of a man consumed by warrior madness. Names are even more deceptive than everyday words because you carry them your whole life without ever questioning what they encode. This warrior-death connection runs even deeper when you examine the broader Germanic naming tradition. Take Brunhild, from the old German elements Bruna, meaning armor, and Hilt meaning battle. In Norse legend, Brynhildr was queen of the Valkyries, literal choosers of the slain. Or consider Odin himself, chief god of the Aesir, primarily gods of war. Odin presided over Valhalla, where dead warriors were collected and prepared for Ragnarok, the final apocalyptic battle. He also led the Wild Hunt, a spectral procession across the sky that was considered a direct omen of war, plague, or death. Anyone who witnessed the Wild Hunt was believed to be marked for death themselves. Jacob Grimm documented these Wild Hunt traditions extensively, showing how deeply embedded death mythology was in Germanic culture and, by extension, in the names that culture produced. This isn't isolated to one tradition. These Proto-Germanic myths connect to a much older system, Proto-Indo-European mythology, the reconstructed belief system of a people who lived roughly 4,500 to 2,500 years before the Common Era, contain the same warrior archetypes. The Greek, Norse, Vedic, and Iranian traditions all share a common ancestor, and all of them feature the same terrifying warrior fury. The Indo-European term for a mad attack, ice, appears across all these cultures. The violence encoded in the name Liam isn't a quirk of one language. It's a feature of an entire civilizational lineage spanning thousands of years. So here's what you're really looking at. The most popular baby name in America, chosen by tens of thousands of parents every single year since 2017, literally translates to Helmet of Will. The helmet half connects to ritual warfare objects bound to a warrior's life force, to the Helm of Terror, wielded by a Norse dragon, to death omens led by Odin across storm-torn skies. The will half connects to berserker fury, wolf cult warrior brotherhoods, and ecstatic battle madness. Now, does this mean you should panic if you named your kid Liam? Of course not. Names evolve, meanings shift. The Liam you know is probably a perfectly cheerful toddler, not a Norse berserker. And honestly, there's something undeniably powerful about carrying a name forged in that kind of ancient fire. The name survived over 1,000 years, since William the Conqueror carried it across the English Channel in 1066. It crossed from Germanic tribes to Norman courts to Irish villages to Hollywood marquees. Liam Neeson, Liam Gallagher, Liam Hemsworth. The name endures because it carries weight, even if most people have forgotten why. But now you know, and the next time someone tells you Liam simply means strong protector, you can smile and tell them what it really means. A helmet bound to a warrior's soul, a will forged in battle frenzy, a name that echoes with the thunder of the wild hunt. You just happen to give it to a baby.